Let's get right into it. So obviously focusing on the introduction to Eagle.io with this webinar and really starting from the basics. But we're going to be covering quite a few features from having a better understanding of the key views that we're offering with the platform, how we configure up assets into the system, and looking at different methods of ingesting data into Eagle.io. And once we've done that, we can focus on having a look at that data through the charting package and creating dashboards, setting up alarms and receiving alerts, notifications, and then sharing that with the appropriate users. So I'm just going to log into an account just here we can use for this with some sample data in here. And once you've got an account with Eagle.io and you first log in, you'll see that we have Google Maps integrated into the system. Now, it might be a little bit of lag here, but there we go. Might do is get my little video. Okay, so we have Google Maps integrated into the system to provide us an overview of where we've got our assets deployed out in the field. You can see here we're looking at a range of different sites, and as we hover over them, the system gives us a relevant site photo and the latest sensor data to come in from that particular site, and of course all the other ones here as well. We can zoom in and get a better perspective of these assets out in the field. Over on the far left over here, we have what we call the workspaces tree, and this is where we set up and configure our assets. And we separate projects and end clients into what we call workspaces, these little grey boxes just here. If we expand on one of them, it'll show us how many sites we have configured in that particular project. If we focus on one particular, being Pond A, you can see now the map view is working with us and is showing us just a summary of what we're focusing on in the workspaces tree. This is the main map view. We have the list view, which will give you a breakdown on the name of the sensors, the latest values to arrive for those sensors, and what state each of those sensors are in. You can see here everything is in the normal state, which is a good thing. But as we set up alarms and alarm thresholds are exceeded, certainly here you'll see it being described in an alarm state. And of course, when the latest data arrived is also shown here. We have a feature called attachments, which is a place where you can upload arbitrary files that are relevant to the asset. Have that be updated site photos, or it might be a PDF document relevant to the site, maintenance reports, and so on. And you can get your assets directly from your desktop and drag it drop onto the user interface here, and that will simply just upload into your attachments view. Okay. We have the chart view, and we can focus on individual sensors, and we allow you to color customize and to configure different styles of charts, from column charts to line charts here. And for some of our weather station clients, we bring in windrow charts and displacement for our structural and geotechnical clients as well. These are just standard charts, but we allow you to create what we call custom charts, where you can overlay multiple sensors on the one chart here and set up multiple y-axes and set fixed y-scale ranges. So you can really create something of meaning and compare multiple sensors. For an example, you have a network of 10 different sites out in the field. You might want to present the battery voltage for all of your sites on the one chart, and we can certainly do that with Eagle.io. We have the events view, and I'll cover all of these things in a bit more detail. I'm just giving more of an executive summary to start here. The events view is like an audit trail, essentially. It's a place where every important interaction that occurs in the system gets logged. When did Katie log in? When did John delete something? When did Tim and Marcus make a change? And everything gets logged, and you can find out how, when, and why things have changed, which is pretty handy, especially when you've shared access to your data to a lot of people and given them the security privileges to make changes. And then the last view up on the top right, we have the dash view. Dashboards, essentially, a place where we bring all of our data together, from our geographical position to key sensors being presented by gauges. Site photos can be ingested into the system as well. So if you have a camera out in the field that has the ability to FTP or email images, we can receive them and then upload them in real time on our dashboards as well, so you have eyes on your assets. This is obviously a dashboard presenting one particular site, showing an overview, but we do allow you to create dashboards that present a summary dashboard, essentially, where you bring in multiple sites under the one dashboard to provide an overview of your entire network. So looking from a column perspective here, pond A, pond B, and looking downwards and seeing key sensors and some data about that particular site. So those are the 5 main views that we're offering with the platform. How do we start from the very beginning and build something like this in Eagle.io? Well, the first thing we do is we create, and as you'll all see when you log into your account, you'll have this create button. We can create a new workspace, so this can be a new project, and we can rename that project. Let's call this one Green Creek Project, and apply that name. And in that Green Creek project, I'd like to create a location. A location appears in the workspaces tree. We can flick over to the map view, and we can zoom in on the location that we're deploying the asset out in the field. Feel free to chime in on the chat bubble, guys, if everything's running okay and you're understanding and the quality is good enough. A little bit of feedback is always appreciated. So once we've got our location in the workspaces tree, we can just select that and drag and drop it onto the map. So now we have our location of our device. We can go into the properties. Excellent, coming through, great, appreciate that, John. Go into the properties of that icon on the map, and we can choose a different color icon for the map, and we can choose a relevant little picture here as well. So let's choose wind. So we're going to install a weather station for today. Then we can upload a site photo. So I've just got a little image on my desktop just here, which I'll use for today. But obviously, when you're out in the field doing an install, you can take a happy snap with your phone. And as we open that up, upload that into the system, and select Save. We now have our location on the map with a relevant icon and site photo. The next step is in that location in the workspaces tree, we want to create a data source. This is where the wizard appears and assists us in creating an appropriate data source. So we have 3 different methods for ingesting data into Eagle.io. The first one is if you can send us text file data, we should be able to manage that data without issue. We have a range of different ways to receive that file, and we'll cover them shortly. So receiving text file data is a very popular method. The second option is we do support a range of industry standard data loggers, and they can be found on our website. And that list is also here as well, and you can choose that device from the list and connect to it. And we add first-class support to some devices where we can do 2-way communication, do remote control aspects, and do firmware updates to a fleet of devices out in the field through a click of a button in Eagle.io, which is quite an empowering tool, and we certainly have that in place for the Campbell Scientific data logger range. The third option to ingest data in the system is we have a HTTP API that allows you to obviously ingest data into the system, and is an efficient way when dealing with a large number of sites, but obviously need programming skills to work that API as well. So bring in text file data, connect to a data logger we support, or use the API as the 3 options. Today I'd like to focus on bringing in text file data, which is the most popular method in Eagle.io. We can select limited text and select next. And here the system asks us, well, how would you like to transmit that file to us? And these are the methods that we currently support. So we can use FTP, which is certainly a popular method from a lot of data loggers out in the field, have the ability to push a file via FTP or email. Of course, we can read files from a Dropbox account. So if you're already receiving your data on an internal server, then you can push those files to a Dropbox account, which Eagle.io is looking at a particular Eagle.io apps folder installed in your Dropbox account. And we can simply grab those files and update them in real time in Eagle.io as soon as you update your files in Dropbox. Amazon S3, MQTT, you can even SMS data into Eagle.io. Email files, we can also grab them from a website. So a lot of government agencies will have a lot of text file data with just a live URL that you can use to actually strip data from the website and bring it in. And we can also grab files from your FTP server as well. I'm just going to FTP some data into Eagle.io for this example, it'll create a unique FTP user code just here. So for every data source that you're setting up and you're using FTP as the transport type, you'll always receive a unique ID, which is necessary for Eagle.io to determine where that file is going to be ingested in the system when you have multiple sites. Of course, select Next here, and the system is asking us, do we have a sample file of some text file data from the device, so we can have a look at the structure of the file and parse it accordingly. So we can browse for, so was there a question there? Sorry, I thought I heard someone in the background. That's okay. I'm just going to bring in some text file data that I have on my desktop, just a standard CSV file here as the sample file. I'm going to apply that file. And this is where we go into what we call the parse. That is white. Eagle.io understands. It understands all the section through here. It even understands the time format. And everything that is red needs some help with. And we need to describe the structure of this file. And we do that by saying, okay, we can see that this is the name of the sensors here, battery voltage, discharge, temperature, etc. And that is labels row number 2 over here. So let's go, labels row is number 2. And it goes, okay, excellent. I'm going to name all the sensors in this row just here. And I'm going to use the data underneath it. If, for an example, the timestamp over here was bright red, and many times it is because there are a range of different odd time formats out there, you can go into the configurator button of the text file, and you can ensure that you overwrite the format here so it mirrors what it is in the text file. Okay, it might be, instead of year, month, month, day, day, it might be day, day, month, month, year, and you just need to change that in this format. But it parsed it automatically, which is excellent. You can also, for an example, if you're bringing in text data, you can describe each of these columns if it's text data as well, and you can disable any particular columns that you don't want to bring into the system. But you've certainly got to ensure that your text file has a column representing the timestamps, and that's called the record time. So once we've got it all parsed appropriately like we have now, we can apply those rules, select Next, and the system informs us, well, here are the name of the sensors. Would you like to bring them into the system, all of them? And I would. And I can also add some units as well here, okay? As I finish that off, you will see in the workspaces tree now, our sensor names have appeared, okay? So we've configured up a location on the map, we've got our site photo in place, and we've described to this particular data source the structure of the file, so that when you program your device out in the field to FTP data to this particular data source, it should be able to ingest that data straight away. And we'll do that right now. I've got a FTP client just here I'm going to open up here, and ftp.eagle.io is the server, and the unique user ID that it created in the data source is what I want to use as its reference in Eagle.io. So we can go into the data source, go into the properties, and look at the connection. And you can see here there's a unique 3-word user code. Let me use that now to connect. And I'm actually going to ingest some data into the system right now. So I have the file on my desktop. As I drop it into my FTP client, we can look at the list view in Eagle.io. It has collected 2,164 values just then. We can look at the parameters, and we can see now that all our values have arrived for our sensors. So we now have data in the system. We can look at the chart view, and instantly you'll see our charts bring up all of that data, showing historical trends. The data can be zoomed in at any point and see a higher resolution of data at that particular point, and then you can zoom out again. So we will actually slightly compress the data. As default, it comes under the charting package. You can also present it as raw data as well. And we'll run through some of the advanced features of the charting package shortly. So now that we've put some data in, we can look at the list view, and we can set up some alarms on this data. So the first thing we want to do to configure up some alerts, configure up some alarm thresholds, is to go into the configurator button of the sensor. So we're going to look at the battery voltage, and we can head to states. And I'd like to add a new state, and I'm going to call This one very high, that's the name of the alarm. And when the battery voltage gets to 14, I'd like to be notified. And we have a fair bit of customization available for when configuring up alarms here. So we can describe when do we want to be notified, when it becomes active or inactive or never or both. So do you want to be notified when it exceeds 14 and then goes below 14, or just when it exceeds 14? So there's a fair bit of little options you can play around with here. Let's just keep it to active. And when we're setting up an alarm on a particular sensor, we can set up who are the alarms for. So is it going to be for the maintenance team? Is it for operations? Is it critical? And you can describe what category of alarm this should be for. So when you share access of this data with somebody and it's part of the maintenance teams, you ask them to subscribe to maintenance alarms. We also allow you to set a custom message in here. And that might be something like, maintenance team, battery voltage is low, please visit site and check solar panels. And that message is going to come through our alerts and notifications feature, which is SMS and email. So I've got a high alarm in there. I can also set up a low alarm by adding another state. We'll call this one very low. What does the quality field do? So essentially, we support quality code. So if you have a quality code assigned to a parameter, we can block particular data from being displayed on your charts. Okay. So I'm just going to set up another alarm here, very low. We'll call this one 12. And as I save that, I've now got a high and low alarm in the system. But what I need to do is drag and drop normal and put it in between the two. Ooh, there, come back down. It's not sticking, is it? There we go. All right, so it knows between 12 and 14, no one really cares. Above 14 or below 12, we want to be notified through an alarm. And as we save that, that is configured now for the battery voltage. If we want to subscribe to SMS and email notification, all we need to do is simply select the eyeball next to it and we'll receive those notifications on that sensor. On the charting package now, you can see that we've got the low alarm being displayed. So you can actually see when your data is trending towards an alarm state. We can quickly create in that location now a chart, and we'll create a custom chart, a historical one. And we would like to present, for an example, the battery voltage on this chart and also the temperature. Actually, we might bring it in with the velocity. Okay, so it doesn't look very good at the moment because our y-axis scale is out. But what we can do is go into the properties of that custom chart, go to axes, and I want to add one, and we'll call this one temperature. I want that positioned on the left-hand side, and then I can add one for velocity, and I want that positioned on the right-hand side. Okay, and under our links, we need to ensure that our battery voltage sensor is aligned with our. Whoopsies, I need to rename that for you. 2 seconds. It wasn't temperature, it was battery voltage, Oregon. Going to the axes. Let's call this one battery, positioned on the left. One for velocity, positioned on the right. And now we want to align our links. So we need to ensure battery voltage is with battery voltage and velocity is with velocity. Okay. As we save that, we can now zoom in, and it's doing an auto scaling of the y-axis for us, and we can see our different names on either side as well. And we can drag and drop as many sensors as we would like onto the chart. Okay. So once we've got our data in, alarms are configured, we have our custom charts configured. We might want to bring it all together into a dashboard. We go about that by creating a new dashboard. In that location. It'll start off with a blank canvas, but we can choose a range of these tiles just here to tell a story of what's going on at that site in real time. So I'd like to see a value list. I'd like to see a location on the map. I'd like to see an attachment image. I'd like to bring in a gauge presenting a couple of key sensors. And I'd like to finish this off with bringing in a custom chart. So we have our tiles on the dashboard, but then we enable you to actually size them up and really build a dashboard exactly how you want to see it. We can move these tiles around. We can go into the properties of any of these tiles. and change the color. So I'd like to see these gauges as black too. And I'll bring in a big custom chart down the bottom just here. Our location on the map will expand out a little. Then I might bring in just one last tile, and we'll bring in a historical table. And one last one will be the alarm summary. Okay. All right, so now that we have our tiles in place, let's get some data onto this dashboard. First of all, the value list. We can individually drag and drop any of these sensors onto there. But if you'd like to see all of them, just drag the data source and it'll bring all the sensors in, providing a summary. The attachment image will be our site photo. We uploaded the weather station there, so we'll drag and drop that. There we are. For the gauges, I'd like to see the battery voltage and the temperature. The location, drag and drop our location marker on the workspaces tree onto the map. We can go into the properties of that particular tile, get a satellite view and zoom in and save for a better perspective of where that site is out in the field. The historical table, would like to see how the water level's been over the last 3 weeks. You can scroll through and see those values. And the alarm summary, if you configured up alarm all of your sensors, you would simply drag and drop the text file source onto this tile, but I've only set up alarms for the battery voltage. So let's drag and drop that on there. Of course, if an alarm is exceeded and goes off, we will get a bright red tile just here. You can't change the color of the tile to red. It's reserved strictly for alarms, okay? And orange, of course, represents someone has acknowledged the alarm. And then finally, we'll finish off this dashboard by presenting our custom chart that we built on there as well. We can go into the properties of this particular chart and ask it to only focus on a certain time frame. So we can have it looking at only at 3 months or 7 days or 24 hours by going into the properties of the chart and focus on the last 7 days, please, and save that. And now that custom chart will always focus on that time frame. Okay. Some other features I'd like to cover as well is the ability to run KML layers via the Google Maps view to enhance the visual experience. So I have a workspace just here that's running a KML in the Great Lakes of Michigan. So we can scroll up here and we can see this KML presenting real-time water temperature of the Great Lakes. And we can activate and deactivate these KML layers at any stage. And we allow you to have up to 10 different KML layers per workspace. Another example of one might be showing real-time rainfall data over a particular region that you're monitoring, for an example, weather station data. We might want to bring in some parameters for a particular state that you want to sort of draw out and map out different areas that you're monitoring and have grid lines, etc. So it's pretty endless on what you can do with the KML, but it's just a great way to enhance the visual experience via the map view and presenting more data. We have smart filters with Eagle.io. So when you're deploying, let's say, a larger number of assets out in the field, like this project just here, and you'd like to focus on one particular sensor, you can put that filter in up here and just have those sensors presenting instead of all of them. And that filter flows all the way through to the list view, where I'm now just looking at the battery voltage values for my entire network. Okay? We also have outdated alarms, meaning you can configure up an alarm on a particular device. Now, look, if data hasn't arrived every hour, I want to be notified. So very quickly, when a site goes down, you can be notified by SMS or email and shown that obviously attention is needed at that site if no data is arriving. Battery power, etc., might be the issue. In Eagle.io, I'm just going to glance over a couple of features. Later on this afternoon, we'll be presenting another webinar focusing on processing and logic, but essentially we allow our clients to perform complex calculations of our data with our servers. So for an example, in this project just here, we've brought in some sensors and we can go in and create a number process. And for those developers out there, it'll open up a programming environment using JavaScript where you can implement your own formula and algorithms to perform calculations on multiple sensors' behavior to create a new value of meaning for that particular project. Usually with 2 or 3 lines of code, you can achieve what you want in the system. And we'll certainly be presenting a bit more detail about this later on. Sorry, I just missed that question there. how can I look at live data? Could you expand on what you mean by that? Yeah, feel free to fire off some more questions. If you could just expand on your question and what you mean by that, I'll be happy to come back to you on that. So yeah, if you are interested in the ability to learn the processing and logic feature, so data over the last 5 minutes. So if you were connecting to a device out in the field and it's sending data every minute, and you've got your chart view, and data's hitting our servers every minute, you would be seeing that data coming in. I've got a little dashboard just here. I can actually present to you some live data coming in simply from my mobile phone. So just to show you how interactive Eagle.io is, let me present this little dashboard just here. So I'm just moving my mobile phone around in the office just here, and you can see it's feeding data from it in real time. Okay, and I can actually start drawing some charts. I'm just looking at the pitch and the roll of my mobile phone through this little app called SensorLog. So as soon as data hits our servers, as soon as a file hits your Dropbox account or it hits our FTP server, you'll see it in Eagle.io in real time. And from the charting package, you can focus on any set amount of time. So have that be focusing on just 1 day's worth of data or a full year. We can make those changes on the fly from the charting package. On the back end just here, you can notice with your account, depending on what security privileges you have, if you're an account owner or administrator, you'll have in the account settings the ability to look at the billing for your account, so how many devices you have connected, and how many people you've shared access to. Under security, you'll have the ability to add not only administrators, but roles, and you can create your own roles. So by default in the system, we have view, operate, and manage. And here are the privileges that those user roles allow you what to do in the system. But when you're sharing access with somebody and you want to create a custom user role, you can certainly describe the name of the user role here and select unique privileges and save that. And that will become the 4th user role in the system when you go to share access. And what I mean by sharing access is we allow you to grab a workspace, which is a unit of security. Everything in a workspace is secure. So I would like to share Green Creek project with somebody. I can go into security. I can enter their email address in, and I'd like to give them, for an example, view-only access. So simply just having a look at the charts and the dashboards and not being able to manipulate or change or delete anything. And then, of course, the other privileges we have operate and manage. And as you create your own new ones, they will appear here, and you can allocate them to people. So let's just give this person view-only access, and you can save that. They'll now receive an email saying you've been granted access to this particular workspace called Green Creek Project. They'll be able to log in and view the data only. Okay? We don't restrict you on how many people you share the data with, so no restrictions there. We also allow our clients to ingest data at a 5-second resolution rate continuously. Okay, so in the account settings, you can have a better understanding of our user roles just here. If you'd like to focus on all your different projects that you're managing, you can see them via the workspaces view here, and it'll show you how many sites they've got configured for those projects. Under customize, we allow our clients to upload their own personal logos here, so they have a rebranded front end when they're logging in to view their data. Okay, so for an example of what that might look like, this is one of our clients here, QGC, where we're looking at a rebranded front end of what they look at when they log in to view their Eagle.io data and all of their end clients, and just a small powered by Eagle.io down the bottom left just here. Okay, so you can quickly upload your logos just here, and also the public content section. You can upload a larger banner, and you can also set up a subdomain here for yourself. We do offer full custom domains if that's something of interest, and obviously taking out the .eagle.io and making it your company.eagle.io or .com to keep us out of the equation a little bit less. Under managed accounts, it's a great feature where when you're subscribing to Eagle.io, it allows you to create sub-accounts off your account and rebrand it for your end client as well, okay? But what that end client doesn't have is the ability to see the billing section in your account. So this process of negotiating a rate per device connected to the system, and that's between you and your end client to obviously work through. But yeah, if you've got larger integrators that you're working with that are wanting to come on board, but they want to see their logos and not your company logos, you can simply do that through the Managed Accounts feature, okay? We also have a feature in Eagle.io called templates, and it's this little unique icon that appears just here, like a little jigsaw puzzle. And templates allow you to deploy a large number of assets in Eagle.io very, very quickly by allowing you to duplicate something that you've created many times and to make changes across all of them through the click of a button. So an example of what a template is inside a template, we can create one, and we can create a location just here. And we can go in and create a data source for that location. And I'm just going to use FTP again. Click next. I'll bring in the same file to keep things simple. So I want to configure up a template, get the parsing rules in place. And you can see here now that in this template, we've built a location and we've built a data source and brought in some sensor names. The next time I want to create this particular template, this for an example in Green Creek project, I can go create, and you'll have this option down the bottom now called an instance. And it's always going to refer to what you've got configured in your template, which is a location. As I select that, it is now duplicated that in this workspace here. So as I expand it, you'll see location 2, and you'll notice that the color has changed to light blue, okay? That's referring to that it's from a template. And I can continue that process many times and create, say, 100 different sites using the template. And then what I can do is make a change to the template, and we'll rename this one Blue Creek and apply that change. And we can, for an example, go into the velocity and delete that particular sensor. And now it's deleted directly from the template. As we build dashboards in this template, it'll be configured in this new instance that we've created from the template. Now, if we want to make particular changes to this, like for an example, we can go in, I can't rename that sensor, okay? There's a restriction on it. But what we can do is go into the template and set up an override to allow name changes to sensors, or to allow for alarms to be configured on sensors on individual instances, okay? There was a webinar run earlier this morning, which I can email you after this webinar, a link to, which runs through the templates in a bit more detail because it is a little complex. But at the end of the day, if you are deploying a large number of sites and you want consistency across all of them, and to be able to make sort of custom changes to individual ones through overrides, we allow that in Eagle.io. If you've got a range of dashboards that you need to change the color of the tile through the click of one button, you can do that through your entire network, which is obviously a very time-consuming process, and we save a lot of time using templates doing that. We also allow you in Eagle.io to just copy a location and paste it in that workspace, and then it'll also create duplicates. That's another way of deploying a large number of assets, but through templates, it's much more efficient when you're reflecting similar changes across all of them, okay? Let's have a look here. With our data, we also allow our clients from the charting package just here. Let me click in and have a look at some sensors from our coal seam gas project. We allow our clients to set aggregates to the chart. So for an example here, we can go into the discharge, so we can find that sensor, and we can go into the properties, and for an example, we can go into chart, and in the data view just here, we can set up an aggregate of our liking, and we have a range of them. from average, median, total, maximum, mean, and so on. And so we can see, for an example, the average discharge, and we can choose it over a fixed period and say we'll make it 5 hours. Save that, and very quickly now we're doing those calculations for you, showing a 5-hour average of discharge on the chart. Okay. Color customization made simple as well by just going into the properties of the sensor in the workspaces tree, going into chart, and we can change the style of that chart. So we can go to a column chart or a spline finish or a step chart. But more importantly, under customize, we can look at changing all the colors as well. So I'd like to see this one in a bright red or orange color just here, and we can set up lots of customization with the line width. So we can make that 5, and we can set up marker types and save those changes instantly in Eagle.io. That will be reflected in the system, okay? So when listening to your end clients and they're demanding a change somewhere in the system, as soon as you make that configuration change in Eagle.io, it will be represented in their account in real time as well, okay? Is there any questions in the chat box that I can come back to and help with while we're here? Feel free to fire off any questions in there as well. So from the beginning, I guess I'd like to just obviously provide a summary. In Eagle.io, we always present the map view when you first log in to show you where your assets are deployed out in the field. By hovering over any of those icons, you will see a relevant site photo and the latest sensor data for that particular site. The map view, of course, wherever you're focusing on in the workspaces tree will provide that summary. So if I select the highest point of the workspace, which will bring in all of the assets, it's now presenting all of those sites. We then, of course, created a new data source by creating a new unit of security, which is the workspace. And in that workspace, we set up the location on the map and got our site photo configured. And then, of course, we brought in the data, configured up some alarms on that data, and then brought that together into some custom charts, and then finally into the dashboard view. After you've got everything in place and you're happy with how your data looks, it's time to share that with the appropriate end clients by subscribing them to an appropriate user role, have that be only viewing the data or having the privileges of actually manage and configuring and acknowledging alarms, okay? If that, of course, complex processing and logic feature is of interest, we're running that webinar at 3:30 New South Wales time this afternoon, which will be a great one if you are a developer. It does require developer skills. But that's what we're trying to do with Eagle.io, is this concept of drag and drop, copy and paste through the system, that you have all the tools to be able to configure up assets in the system. And you're not relying on making a phone call back to headquarters to say, can you get the IT team to do this? No, you've got all the tools here to actually do it yourself, which is really important to us. Looks like we had a question come through there. Okay, I appreciate that. It's I'll send through a link later on to everyone. That's actually a pre-recorded video here of this today, so you can always refresh yourself if you get stuck with something. But thank you for joining. That's awesome. Is there anyone else with any questions? We're maybe going to wrap up a little bit early today, but that's okay. I'd love to help out if I can. So feel free to throw some questions in there. If you haven't already got an Eagle.io account and you'd like one, of course, if you're working for an organisation that has access to an Eagle.io account, let me know which organisation you're with, and I can let you know who the account manager is, and they can share a user role to you, to some sample data to play around with. But yeah, if you're unsure about any of the features, feel free to always reach out to our support team at support@Eagle.io, and we'd be more than happy to come back and explain in a bit more detail. On our website just here, let me flick over to our landing page. We do have some great case studies and a blog, but under more, we have documentation. And in here, we have about 350 to 400 pages worth of detailed description about every feature that we've just covered this morning, and sorry, this afternoon, and well, this morning for some people. And for an example, we can look at sharing and security, the user roles. All of that information is explained in here, and we have nice clear screenshots of the user interface to help you understand those features as well. So that's a great resource. Also on YouTube under Eagle.io, we have a range of training videos that assist you. For an example, you get stuck with the parsing rules and how you get that text file through. We have a great training video to cover that as well there. So great resources if you get stuck, but also reach out to support at Eagle.io and our team will jump on to any of your questions there. So we brought in some data via the text file, which is the most popular method of bringing data into the system. But if you are working with Campbell Scientific data loggers, feel free to let me know on the chat bubble just here, and I can present to you how to actually connect to a Campbell Scientific data logger. If not, not a worry. But it's simple. The process of getting data in is getting it into text file format, and obviously a range of supported transport types there with the Dropbox, of course with the FTP, with the MQTT, which is becoming more and more popular. If you can just get your data into a CSV format, we should be able to ingest it in real time and be able to present that via our charting package with alarms, etc. Thank you, John. Let's jump in and have a look at that Campbell Scientific connection. So in Green Creek project just here, I'd like to create another location. And that location, if I go into the map view, is going to be out in the field just here. Very good. So I've got our location out in the field. I won't upload a site photo or change the icon just here to save some time. But you've got to remember that to create a data source, you need to create a location first. It's really important. And once we've got that location, we can create in that location a data source. And this time, we're going to connect to a data logger, that being Campbell Scientific. We select Next, and we choose the type of data logger that it is. We've got a CR800 series here in the office, and we select Next. And we have two options for connecting to that data logger. You can use TPC client. So if you have a fixed internet address or a fixed IP for that device and you know what that IP is, you can simply enter that IP address into here and its port number, and you should be able to connect to it directly. Or if you know its internet address, you can enter that also and connect to it directly. We also have TPC callback, which is another method. We do have a device, a hardware device, a modem that we do supply, and that's obviously a very easy way to plug and play out in the field with one of these devices. To get it connected to the internet is very simple, simply by entering the IMEI number off the back of a modem into Eagle.io. It manages the acquisition with the Campbell logger directly to Eagle.io, or again using the TPC client option, which I'll present today. We have one in the office which I should be able to connect to by entering its internet address and its port number. We can describe here the collection interval that we'd like to grab data from that device. So I'll choose every 5 minutes. And on the initial collection, I'm just going to collect the most recent data for this presentation. As I select Next, Eagle.io asks us here, would you like to automatically set up all the parameters from that Campbell Scientific data logger, or do you want to manually connect to it now and maybe select just a few to bring in? I'm going to automatically set it all up to save some time. As we select Next here, we can look at the source view and we can see that Eagle.io is attempting to connect to that data logger in real time. And it might sit there for maybe 30 seconds on its first connection, but when it does connect, and as you can see now in the workspaces tree, it's brought in the sensor names automatically like it said it would, and it's just doing a quick processing now, actually ingesting that data. Focusing on the parameters view, you can now see all the values for those sensors, and the same principles that we ran through before by bringing in the text file data, we can go over to the far right, configure up some states for those particular sensors here. We can chart, of course, all of that data and bring it all together via the dashboard view to provide an overview of what's going on at that particular site in real time. Just a couple of other examples of data that we've got here. So we can look at a project here, for an example, focusing on some weather station data. And we're looking at a mine in the middle of Australia. And as we hover over our map markers, we're seeing that sensor data come through. Okay, as we focus on the chart view, we can look at those individual sensors from one of the sites. Of course, all color customized. Look at the dashboards for each of these sites. And you can really get creative on what you want to build in these dashboards here. being able to size up these tiles, make changes on the fly very, very quickly. This is just an example of the windrows chart. And again, building up a windrows chart is the process of just dragging the sensors from the workspaces tree, wind speed and wind direction directly onto that chart to present the data. Okay, let me check if there's any other questions. Excellent. So with connecting to the Campbell loggers, it's not only just bringing in the sensor data, but we bring in, as I mentioned before at the beginning of the webinar, the ability to perform two-way communication with the loggers. So if you want to set up a control parameter with the Campbell Scientific Data Loggers, that can be done. So for an example, being able to open and close gates or turn on and off pumps can be done through the user interface directly from the dashboard. Okay. Well, I think that probably, if there's no further questions to assist with, I think that probably wraps up a basic introduction to the system here. Again, any questions or any further issues that you have, we'd love to hear from you at support@eagle.io, and we'll have the team get back to you as soon as possible. But I wanted to thank you for your time and joining us today. Appreciate that, Katie. Safe travels and all the best. Okay, bye-bye now.